Apologies if I'm a little bit late, guys. The way my man Shane Bear has been moping around the domicile for the last several days and listening to romantic music, which just ain't him. Got a feeling my man is in love. Unrequited love would be my guess. My man's got no game, just being mildly autistic. So I feel for him, but he's coming to the wrong place for advice in matters of the heart. The best I could do was to tell him, hey, man, chicks come and chicks go, which was not a lot of comfort to him, nor would it have been to any man who ever found himself highly attracted to a member of the opposite gender. It hurts if they don't feel the same way that you do. And there's just not much that I can tell them except they come and they go. You know, jobs are kind of the same way. And I was 32 years old before my first meaningful job came. And I kept it for 36 years until it went gone. But it was a good career. And if it led to this moment here with you guys, then so much the better. Welcome, and I am Mark Patterson. You are in the dungeon where we'll share our deepest, darkest, most verboten handicapping thoughts and life's observations to boot. Welcome in. Off turf tonight, the Mountain Maine, I would assume is fast. Just a couple of grassers were scheduled to begin with. I thought the surface played fairly last night, for what it's worth. Let's take a look at the open here. It was supposed to be 7/8. And these are some of my favorite races because they have a two-turn feel. When they go back to one turn, they can be a piece of pie, like shooting the proverbial fish in a barrel to handicap. So make it 6 panels on that fast Mountain Maine, $4,000 claimers, which have never won a race on the turf. So sometimes it is just as simple as finding out who has climbed higher on the condition book food chain in a race like this when it flips over to dirt, because you get some strange bedfellows, some mismatched horses that would never be in the same race if it were originally written for dirt. Taking this from the top, number 2, Align. Align cuts back in distance. Would have been okay going a route of ground once. In fact, scores by 8 lengths and opening up at the end at a mile and a 16th at Charlestown on January the 14th. That's a 3-turn trek. I'm not sure Align really wants to go long these days, though, because Align has given up ground in the late stages of each 2-turn engagement of Mountaineer. So the turnback, I think, is going to help. And the sprint form was a lot sharper. Those 2 6-furlong races here on June 15th and July the 6th. The July the 6th race was much better. And that's pretty obvious from the improved Beyer fig from the previous effort there that found Align victorious, but victorious in a modest never 3 that set up for somebody who could move a little bit late. Align comes back at his next one, though, and is much more alert, surprisingly alert, and a race that had a lot of speed up top. And a race that was taken by a good horse named Unraptured. Buck and Dramer, who was third, has some cred and had a lot of class last season. So that was a good field that Align was second in the last time Align sprinted, and that was on July the 6th. Now, Align gets to 1 post, which would have been a major concern just a couple of days back, but it was not last night because the inside trips came out of firing yesterday. You never know from day to day at Mountaineer. Number three, States United. States United was claimed for 12, surfaces again for 75, and then pops up first time off the claim after being rested for Jedi's Way. Ran okay when haltered there. Was part of a pretty quick pace on June the 9th, and the pace was faster than the final. So that didn't bode too badly for the near future, except Jedi's Way was dropped a little bit in class off that claim. And that can be a negative because these barns are so protective of whatever horses they get their hands on. And Jedi's Way came back and it did not run so well, backed up at 5.5. And then most recently, this horse has routed successfully in the past, goes out there at not a real swift pace and folds up well before going 6 furlongs. So unless Clutley figures this horse out in a big hurry, then it's pretty tough for me to like Jedi's Way. My Detroit City, going short or going long. So Magoo backs it up. But the next time, he's out there 25-2 and still retreats well before traveling 6 furlongs. At this point, I'm kind of scratching my head the way John Belushi did in Animal House, funniest movie ever, when he's walking down those steps with the toga on with mustard all over it. And the guy's sitting there trying to impress the chicks by singing, I gave my love a cherry. So Belushi kind of gives him the side eye. And that was my give Magoo the side eye effort there. on June the 21st. And you could have figured this horse was not long for the non-claiming competition. And indeed, Magoo pops up next time for the 5,000 claiming and ran okay, but I wouldn't say it's a win-worthy effort. Now, Magoo should have some forward position here. And with the route history, it's probably dangerous. And just because the horse has tailed off doesn't mean the horse is crippled, quote unquote, or is going to continue to get slower and slower by the minute and will never win again without seeing the pasture or softer competition. Magoo probably stalks the pace here. Maybe behind. Well, behind too, huh? Has Magoo got a chance to get the lead with that route speed in here? Because there ain't much sprint speed postward. Maybe Jedi's way for a couple of furlongs out there. And Hoy Lake, who's been freshened up since May the 19th, and as the gung-ho, good gate guy, Ricardo Barrios on board there, this Hoy Lake. Hoy Lake wins fresh on May the 10th there for Dave Treehorn, master horseman, who's had his runners ready first time off the bench this year. And it seems like his percentage just never tails off. Dave Treehorn, he just keeps winning and winning and winning. Hoy Lake, though, came back and floundered at even money on the heels of that return win and has now been absent another 2.5 months. Now, Treehorn can make this work, but obviously this horse has got some issues and can't withstand rigorous, constant campaigning, it looks like to me, Hoy Lake. Hoy Lake is pretty obviously what I would term an industrial strength speed horse. He's not going to get the lead unless they're going slowly enough. But if he doesn't get command, then you may have a real difficult time reeling him in and catching him, Hoy Lake. He's a hard read here. But given this combination of Krista Hetrick paying the bills and Dave Treehorn down as trainer, and those are two really good horsemen there, baby, I wouldn't put anything past them to resurrect Hoy Lake off a further freshening there. And the lead may have a vacancy sign on it here, too. This race is just a little bit tough for me to gauge. Arac has not been scratched, correct? I'm going to be getting close to post time, right? Let me tool on over and check out the odds board here. Yeah, no scratch on Arac, who got a ground-saving trip. And again, won that race that was loaded with talent by 4,002 since the date standards, except nobody fired except Arac. And Arac is hardly a sprinter, nor do I think he's going to get the kind of tempo up top to turn him into one. Game Boy Benny on the outside. You know what? I respect him. 17 career wins, but sometimes he shows his age. And he's 10 now, Game Boy Benny, and some of his races are better than others. I would like to better summarize him in a neat, concise package and put a ribbon on it. But I really can't when it comes to Game Boy Benny. And I don't want to do form recitation, to where, and then he did this, and then he did that, and then he did that, because you're supposed to do form analysis, not form recitation. I'm not saying I ever worked with anybody that recited the form like a nursery rhyme. I'm not saying that exactly, but it's supposed to be form analysis, not form recitation, guys, like a nursery rhyme, like an effing nursery rhyme. Did I say that? This race is a big pass for me. And please remember, it is off grass. But you knew that already, correct? Make it 6 panels on a fast mountain main. I feel bad for my son. I really do, because I can see the pain in his eyes. Pain that every man has experienced. And every man has to experience, it seems like. I gave my basic rule of thumb. If you're into a chick that doesn't want you, trust me, she's into a guy that doesn't want her. It's the way of the world. If you guys notice, the horse is sweated up a little bit, not abnormal. It is a little bit hotter than average for this time of year. We probably hit 85 or 86, but with the sun beating down, it seemed warmer this afternoon. So, not necessarily a big negative to see a horse sweated up a little bit this evening. Mhm. My favorite meme ever, and it's not even close, is a picture, a real picture, I guess this happened, of Howard Cosell in his cream-colored ABC Monday Night Football blazer. And he's flanked on one side by Bruce Jenner and on the other side by the Juice, O.J. Simpson. And Cosell says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have been to the future, and you're not going to believe this shit." Well, 10, 15 years ago, if you would have told occupants of the Mountaineer Jocks Room that you had been to the future and Renzo Diaz was winning races with bold, difference-making, rail skimming moves, they would have scoffed, like you were Howard Cosell, intimating what would become of Simpson and Jenner, because he was the punchline of a joke for like 20, 25 years in the Mountaineer Jocks Room. But good on Renzo. He's getting live mounts and he's making a difference, man. I couldn't find Eric. I should have let Kenny Neely recap the race for me. My thoughts exactly, Kenny. Eric, I've never seen him attempt to sprint. I wasn't all that impressed with his route when either. And it is rare when 7H races flip over to 6 on dirt or one from well back like that one was. But I guess the ingredients were there because a line isn't a whole lot of horse. He figured to run well, maybe arguably the likeliest winners, sort of, kind of, but he ain't sexy and probably should have done better last time at a distance of ground, given his history of success and even 3-turn races. And maybe you had one key ingredient for come-off when Jedi's Way, who clearly has gotten not jump one of run out of, figures to go out and get the lead. And I kind of predicted this. So that sets the other pace types a little bit back on their heels and out of their games right off the bat, right from the jump, and maybe sets it up for a somewhat uncommon come-off win in a 6-furlong race. It was originally scheduled for 7/8 on the turf, huh? Yeah, it's a hilarious meme. And that was the world's worst Howard Cosell impersonation. I think I choked like a dog because in real life I could do Cosell, but did not sound remotely. If you go back as far as I do at Mountaineer, then to watch Renzo Diaz win races with good rides, difference-making rides, it just blows your mind. It really does. The second race was lined up for the turf 5/8, and I'm sorry if it is still buffering, guys, because I'll probably have to wait until the down days and get somebody here to take a look at my internet hookup, which is a hard hookup right into the computer. I don't think it's a YouTube thing, but I could be mistaken. I'm going to have to get somebody in here, I would say, which I will do over the dark days if I possibly can, although it's almost impossible to get a human voice when you call Comcast. They're evil, just fucking evil. Comcast/Infinity. They really are. For a lot of reasons. Second race was, they'll probably cut my cable off now, which I need them to do anyways, because I'm one of the last remaining idiots. I'm the last of the Mohicans that pays the full freight for the full golden package of 3,000 effing channels, and I probably watch 8 of them. Seriously. The second race was supposed to be 5/8 on the grass. Make it 5/8 on the Fast Mountain Main. Puppy's Pride was main track only. More Love was main track only. And they're in, baby. They're in to go. Maybe in to win. Puppy's Pride was actually the favorite. You can't go by the program odds, obviously, because they were drawn up for turf. Puppy's Pride, I think, was the favorite a couple of minutes ago. I don't think he's going to stay the chalk here. I'd be shocked were he to remain the chalk. Puppy's Pride, I've cashed some tickets on in Austin Town. He's the rare speed horse who can also run without the lead a little bit. He proved that even at a route of ground there once or twice did Puppy's Pride. He just knows how to win. He loves to win, Puppy's Pride. He's got a good turn of foot. Sometimes he's a little suspect at the break, which could be exacerbated at a 5/8 distance. So we're not looking for him to have a real good case of the quicks here, leaving the latch. I don't think that Team Cool Cat Mandu is exactly shaking in their shoes as far as trying to get the lead from Poppy's Pride down the backstretch here. Poppy, after being claimed at Mahoning, gets rested for the entire spring and then pops up 1 month into the summer and ran second there. This outfit's got him running. They won a race last night, seems to whisper, I think. I didn't like, but she won. They can be a little bit streaky, and they're better than their record looks. Husband-wife team, Steve and Donna Scallon. But Poppy's Pride could regress, could bounce second time back off the bench, and I just don't think he has 5/8 speed. And if you want to bet Poppy to spot Cool Cat Mandu early command and still win it, well, you're trying to thread a needle there. More Love on the outside. More Love was here once upon a time. A long time ago, More Love was at the mountain as a non-life horse and was just the goods, man, was the absolute goods. At some point, More Love came down the ladder and just couldn't get the money, even for $4,000 at Mahone. I tried to cash tickets on this horse, and I scoped out races that he almost had to get the lead in. Didn't matter. For one thing, he's a little bit quirky at the break. Sometimes he deigns to break, and sometimes he gets away a beat and a half slow and compromises his own chances because he has a speed. When he's right, though, he's a pretty game one. Now's where it gets a little bit complicated because he gets claimed there. Does More Love and goes on a tear to win 3 in a row, including a couple of starter optionals. Did More Love and showed some heart to race denied the lead and still score with a 75 buyer. 2 back More Love. Now his next one, not as good, which kind of begs the question, to what do we owe his presence? Is he over the top? Is he not as good as he was when he was on that tear in Ohio? Is that why he's here? Now, this is a little bit tricky. He changes title over to Hobby Castillo. But these guys are in cahoots, him and Ivan Calderon. I swear, they flip horses back and forth. And Castillo's won with about 3 horses that were shipped to him from Calderon up Ohio way over in the neighboring Buckeye State. So More Love has got clear sailing out there, too. And he's not the kind of quickster that's necessarily going to go out there with Cool Cat Mandu to the first call, but he's got a really good second quarter. And if he would have had the track bias in his favor that was so prevalent just a couple of days back, man, he might have been good to go from the 10 post here as number 10 in this race on the 4 outside. But I don't think that kind of a grain is in play now. Your first race winner came right up the inside. Now, the track was fair last night, I thought. Cool Cat Mandu, I've alluded to a couple of times. He is the quickest, the first call. I just don't think he's as good as he was last year. Even though he was only 6, and that's prime time for long shot Wilson Langley's barn, baby. Cool Cat Mandu, when he came here, I think from Finger Lakes, put up some big numbers and won a couple of starter allowances, pulling away in the late stages. But my first red flag with him was when he was sent a mere quarter mile a couple of times off the bench this season, because this is a horse that can run 5.5, at least he used to. And Langley tends to have him fit first time back, at least this season. That's been his MO. So for him to have sent the Cool Cat two furlongs there, twice, the 2 furlong races, kind of made me scratch my head and wonder, is Cool Cat Mandu as good as he was last year? Is there something up behind the scenes? Now, he has won 2 out of 3 since being advanced to more standard racehorse distances, tonight's distance, 5/8. But both times by diminishing lead. And just not much behind him in that dirt race there on July 20th. And you can see with the final time figures a drop-off, a considerable drop-off from his best stuff last season. So Cool Cat Mandu just coasted to the lead there. May well do the same in here, but I think he can be had from behind. Now, last year's Cool Cat Mandu, I think, would have been long gone against this field. But this version of Cool Cat Mandu, I'd rather take a crack at him in deep stretch, to be honest about it, with number 3 Standard of Proof, who was 8-5, the favorite. And a good rule of thumb for you newbies, novices out there is never take favorite odds on a sprint race on a horse that lacks speed, that doesn't figure to be on the trifecta ticket at first call. And Standard of Proof certainly does not. But I think it might be a good spot for Standard of Proof to rally. And I will supply some reasons after the field is brought forth for the post parade. Dave Pittman, I could not agree more. I've posted your apropos comments about that cable company that stinks out effing loud. It took me 4 days and talking to about 4 flunkies there, maybe 5 or 6, before I finally convinced somebody to come out of character, to come off their effing script for 2 seconds and listen that I needed a house call. They weren't going to solve my issues with their little manual of let's try this and then let's try that. And with an Indian accent so thick I could not understand them or ascertain what they were saying. Just thumbs down to Comcast. And when I finally did have a visit from a tech scheduled, they called me 4 freaking times the morning of the visit and try and talk me out of it. To keep trying and trying to talk me out of a tech actually coming to the house. So what a nightmare it is to deal with those people. Number 3, Standard Approved. Standard Approved won fast at 5.5, which is kind of a hint that he likes the setup that these short sprints sometimes provide for his kick, the weaker speeds and more of them. Not as good going 6, I don't think. And he kind of proved that in his next couple of races, was treated to a speed fight on June the 28th and didn't do a whole lot about it. I think he likes the shorter distances now, even though that's not apparent from his Phoenix form. Standard Approved, most recently, he actually got the lead there with just 3 opponents because he was actually the speed of the race, which he'll never be again in his life. It didn't have to be because at a trip like this, he wants to rally anyways. But I will tell you a couple of things about that performance. That's a very good horse that beat him, General Mathis. And also, Standard Approved was down close to the inside, which was, if not a valley of death, which was still no place for man or beast on July the 20th. So he went against the grain of the track there. And as far as I'm concerned, that's an A-plus performance from Standard Approved. And Juan Pablo, this is a rare instance where he goes mainstream with his choice of jockeys nowadays because it seems like he puts Leon on horse after horse after horse. And now he's got his son in the saddle also. And his son rode a couple last night, took a tough beat on one of those horses. But he's going a little more mainstream here and giving himself, I think, a better chance to win than he would have with Leon. With Garcia on board Standard Approved, who is 9-5. I don't think you're going to see a lot of value. I don't think so here, but I think you're going to see the right race flow for him. And I think he's the best to boot. So I'm contemplating a wager, but I'm going to keep a close eye on the board because I ain't taking 4-5 or even money or some silly short price on this horse to make up 5 or 6 lengths and a 5-furlong race. So a 3 to 5 on More Love, all the money found him. The once phenomenal More Love, who's looking more and more like his old self since he was claimed there, man. He's been on a tear, More Love, and he's the rare speed horse who can concede the lead for the first couple of furlongs and still make that second quarter move and show some heart. So shows up with his best game and gets the job done. I think Cool Catmandu may have run a little better there, even in defeat, than he did in either of his victories this year. Cool Catmandu was 3 to 5 on More Love. Hobby Castillo was deadly with those Calderon shippers from Thistledown. Everything henceforth was originally lined up to be dirt. Third race, 5 furlongs, West Virginia bred. Never Two Life, 7,500 claiming. And you got a mare and against the boys, so it's going to be the favorite. Number 1, Amour de la Vie. Amour de la Vie, I listed there as puzzling morning line prices. 3 to 1. It's going to be lower. Definitely, it's going to be lower. And also, Eyes of the Candy. You guys know this feature. You're familiar with it. 8 to 5. No. Will be higher and not favored. If Eyes on the Candy ends up favored here over Amour de la Vie, I'm going to be shocked. I mean, never say never, but I'm not feeling it. And I've run through this whole litany before. There are certain instances in which sexism should probably be set aside when you handicap. Sometimes mares can beat the boys on grass. Frequently, they do it as 2-year-olds. They can also do it in 440 races where gender thing doesn't really come into play. And also in West Virginia bred races, the restriction's the overriding thing. So this filly was in against the boys last time, and I think ran faster, higher on the speed scale than anybody in here ever has. Amour de la Vie was taking a steep drop there after a maiden special win, which was a little bit puzzling to me. Added the blinkers and did improve her game. When she debuted at the Fairmont Park, no less, where they don't write West Virginia bred races, I think the winner of that Epic Prankster just been claimed from a good effort for like $30,000 in Kentucky, 30,000 claiming, and the place horse has come back to run out some pretty good performances. So that was promising for Amour de la Vie. So when she hits town, she's even money, turf or no turf. So she's getting out. She's losing the lead coming down to the wire. Maybe it didn't mean a lot. I don't know if she even wants turf. But they don't want her that badly. They put her in for 75 next time. But that race is supposed to win this for Amour de la Vie. And really, who's going to take the rail away from her to begin with here? Who's necessarily fast enough to do that? Cage Red Bull fronted her on July the 6th, but Cage Red Bull is hardly a bastion of early speed. Correct? Yeah. And as far as the horse that's favored on the morning line, Eyes on the Candy. Eyes on the Candy came here with a woeful form and a cheap claiming form, too. They often improve when they come from Charlestown because some of the Mountaineer state-bred maiden races are just atrocious. Like some of those things aren't even thoroughbreds. And Eyes on the Candy caught one of those fields on May the 11th. Didn't prove anything, didn't mean anything because this horse has not been part of the trifecta in 3 subsequent tries. Eyes on the Candy. And Eyes on the Candy is going to drop back early. And whoever gets the lead here, if it's not Cage Red Bull, is going to be formidable, I would say. Amour de la Vie from the inside, who has flashed a sharp speed in at least 2 of those 4 races and enough speed in the other 2 to maybe get command here. Baby Dog. Baby Dog is out of Blue Moon of Saratoga. How many of you Mountaineer bettors remember her when Eddie Clouston had her? She was a beautiful color of gray, almost blue, and won beaucoup races, front-running style for Eddie Clouston when she came down here from Finger Lakes, Blue Moon of Saratoga. Baby Dog by Mike Bairdsire, Cal Nation there. And Baby Dog just hasn't shown the same speed this year as last year. It didn't look like to me when Baby Dog was often out there winging, even in short sprints, 22 and change. Baby Dog's failure to detonate early has cost him dearly. And a couple of those races were opportunity knocked, I think, but was completely outmanned last time against fuller horses. A horse like Hero's Man, who was so fast, it was won like, I don't know, 25 races or something like that. So he's back with his own kind here, Baby Dog. And he was third on the ticket that found Amour de la Vie second and was on terms with Amour through the early stages. And Baby Dog could be right all over him early. I mean, just right out there at a big part of the pace. And Seabass, is your name Sebastian? My great nephew was named Sebastian. They call him Seabass. I'm really liking this Haldor kit in the right spot. Often knows when to go to work and when to switch hands with a crop. Doing well. Yeah, he's an up and comer for sure. I keep waiting for somebody to pill for him. One of the big time agents to go to a bigger track because that's what they do. They watch the nighttime signals and watch for talent and troll. So what do we have? Like a troll in here? Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. Yeah, we're gonna have to get rid of that guy, huh? We're getting trolled a little bit in here. I guess that's normal on this kind of a YouTube channel, huh? Yeah, Platinum Empire. We are interested in the exchange prices. Sometimes so. My man Anthony said back to binging the Blacklist. I don't want to spoil it for you. Is he gone? Anthony, have you taken your leave, man? Cover your ears if not, because I'm going to give you a spoiler. In the end, Red Reddington turned out to be a Redette. In other words, he was actually Katrina, all gussed up to look like a guy. What a come down that was for me. Just ruined my whole experience of watching that television show for years. It was just ridiculous. Those shows all have lousy endings, though. Binged Lost. And then what an unsatisfying conclusion that was. Game of Thrones, too. One of the worst endings of all time. Game of Thrones put out there with straight faces. My big knock on the Game of Thrones finale wasn't that, that kid who fell out of the treehouse when he got shoved by Jaime Lannister, because he should have been a peeping Tom. Really, seriously, should not have been. But who kept denying that he wanted to be the king for like 5 or 6 years. He denied he wanted to be the king. I didn't mind when he became the king. Okay. Or even when he sent Jon Snow to the wall, which I thought was unfair. I thought Jon Snow earned a little bit more than that. Brock became the king, right? I could have dealt with that. But what I could not deal with was the tone, the lighthearted tone of the finale, because it was a dark, medieval, sinister series about bad things that happen to bad people and to good people. And even the production values on the finale were un-Game of Thrones-like because it was sunny. It looked like an episode of fucking Chips from the 1970s with John and Punch. And that's not Game of Thrones. That's not Game of Thrones. So Seabass says, yes, indeed. Sebastian is his name. Seem real smart. I figured that out, man, because there's a Seabass in my family. I love this. Ace McDuff says, my cash ticket percentage tonight is right there with Blutarsky's GPA. An Animal House, baby. Great character. All-time classic character. He made Animal House. It was an ensemble, and they paid them like cheap wages to make that movie. I think Belushi got like $15,000, but carried that movie to hundreds of millions in profits, did Belushi, and earned himself a contract to star in some future movies based on Animal House, because he was the deal, man. He was the goods. And he's why that movie went viral on a low budget, too. My man Todd McCullough's a real comedian, a real wise ass. I was critical last night of Fatal Attraction because Glenn Close does not smoke convincingly. I hate that. You're supposed to be a professional actor or actress. If you were scripted to smoke, at least do it convincingly. Like you're knocking off 3 packs a day of unfiltered Pall Malls. Please, can you do this for me? So my man says, was there any smoking in Game of Thrones? No, but Queen Daenerys left a Starbucks cup on the big oaken round table for one of the scenes. And there was some speculation that she might have done it on purpose as kind of a sly little endorsement. And then Jon Snow knocked her off. And the dragon knew she had it coming, right? Because he did diddly about it. It is 0 minutes to post, and as expected, much shorter odds on the one horse than slated on the morning line. There, 3-1 was never going to happen. 4-5 on a more de la vie. And I also itemized Eyes on the Candy as a misconceived price point on the Mountaineer morning line. Eyes on the Candy was never going to be favored at all, much less at 8-5. And that price right now is 5-1. So there ain't much in the way of my opinions that is not baked into the odds right now, even as we speak, guys. Back afterwards. Oh yeah, Ace, I am with you. My brother, I am astonished that Exacta paid 25.80 because my likeliest ticket would have been a 1 and 5, but the only other possibility, if you like the 1, and I did, would be for the 6 horse to run second because Cage Red Bull, not a contender to be second, and just out of the blue, off that super slow, a maiden went against the professional maidens, the Groom's Jewel, and all roads lead to Dennis was not a player at all there. So $25. So you punch 2 Exacta tickets and you turn Amour de la Vie into like a 6-1 shot, prorated there. Just incredible as Amour de la Vie ends up at 2-5. But the money had to show up, and it did. Struggled mightily, though, to put away Baby Dog, who is kind of a bow wow. And then to withstand Eyes of the Candy, who ain't so sweet in terms of talent. So somebody put up LSMFT, Lucky Strike means fine tobacco. So round, so firm, so fully packed. My dad was a Lucky Strike smoker, and he would Bogart it like Humphrey Bogart, always between his lips. And he was really cool, man. My dad was just a cool guy. My mom was also a smoker, but I never ever considered it. And I have read where it's likelier that you're going to take up smoking if your parents smoked, but not me, man. It turned me off, and it's just not a habit I've ever understood. Have you ever seen Bob Newhart's comedy routine or heard it about smoking? It's hilarious when he talks about Sir Walter Raleigh phoning over to the colonies about the new habit in England to take tobacco and roll it up in paper, then put it in your mouth and light it on fire. Newhart was hilarious doing it. Comedy routine. What was that auctioneer's commercial with the guys like he's verbalizing like an auctioneer, like at a rapid rate of speed, like, oh, Lucky Filters. Remember that one? Weird ass commercial. You know what? I'm so anti-smoking that I won't even golf with smokers because I swear sometimes they could stink up the great outdoors. I won't even golf with a smoker, and I haven't for years, man. We are on the 4th race now. Non-filtered Luckies and Pall Malls notwithstanding. 6 furlongs. I've often said, I'm sure my man's got some habits I'm unaware of, Like I know his vocabulary's a little more extensive when he's not around me and his mom. Not quite as clean as we would like, but that's okay. That is cool. And I think he's been known to hoist a cup now and then too, and might even be doing some kind of snuff. But were I ever to find out that my man, Shane Bear, is smoking, I would simply walk down all disconsolate to the Newell Bridge, which is about an 8-mile walk from here. Nothing dramatic. I would not deserve anything dramatic or want any kind of flair involved. Just sit down on the side of the bridge and plop into the water and consider myself an utter failure as a parent. The 4th race is one of those newfangled ratings, handicaps. These have a number between 20 and 40. They're in for a $4,000 claiming price. Nobody had to go for the dreaded tag here because they all fall within the parameters. I'm going to put these up because I went to the trouble to look them up, and you can find them on Equibase. Just look up Equibase horse ratings, and you can see where these numbers are at. And there we go, scrolling across the bottom. And the 2 horses that are tied for the best number, and this is a little puzzling. Rockstar Parking's got a 40. And there's an algorithm that is supposedly transparent where they detail the formula. And you can check it out if you want. I've looked at it a lot. So the 2 horses that are tied for best number in here are Rockstar Parking and Slanderous. They both have 40s, I think, don't they? Yeah. Here's what puzzles me though. Last time Rockstar Parking was in the same kind of a race between 20 and 40 qualified you to enter and not be claimed. And if you exceeded 40, you had to go for the $4,000 claiming price. Rockstar Parking was the only horse in there, if memory serves. And I don't want to get too technical here, but I am a hardcore horse racing analyst, and these things do come to my attention. I even got to have a video up. I even have a video up. Einstein now writes conditions, race conditions, in which I take the rating system to task. Check it out, please, if you haven't already, because I do have the content that is not analysis related on my YouTube channel. So check it out, please, when you get a chance. But Rockstar Parking last time, I think had a 42 or something, was too high to qualify and not run to be claimed. So went for the tag. But now Presto Voila wins it with the highest rating in the field, and then comes back and sees the number drop and qualifies for this. Now, I've downgraded horses on the basis of wins before. So I guess it's not all that unusual or puzzling, but it just strikes me as kind of strange. Rockstar Parking has some issues sometimes with a standing start. And once Rockstar Parking hits top speed, she's a moving around that far turn. 6 furlongs now, and I know she's got the superlative record going 6, but I think 6 is pushing it for Rockstar Parking at this stage of her career. Now, she has kept better competition, beaten better competition on her 2026 Mountaineer form in Phoenix as well than she faces here. And she put up a good number there on July 22nd. I would slow my roll a little bit there because the Waterworks that she beat is not the good front-running Waterworks. Waterworks on July 22nd was well back in the pack and had to try and rally, which is not the way she rolls. Waterworks. So I get mixed signals from Rockstar Parking here, guys. Polyester Bride, completely overmatched. Kaya's Song. I had a few things shape up her way when she wins on June 23rd there. The speed was hopeless. It accommodated her. An Amalfi lady, and this can be a sign too, and not a good sign, would come back to lose her next two by like 20 lengths of pop. So I'm not impressed with Kaya's Song. I think some of these connections really had no idea what they were dipping a toe into. Just wanted to take a look at the overnight, one of these newfangled ratings handicaps, and see what it looks like on paper. A little bit surprised we didn't get more scratches than we have seen in here with a horse like Polyester Bride or a horse like Kaya's Song. And let me check how many minutes the post we have here, guys. Yeah, they're still in the paddock, but the jocks are getting a leg up now. And number 7, Legacy Trail. Legacy Trail. I was compromised by the one post, had to make 2 runs, and went pretty well on June 21st, or else I think Legacy Trail would have been a 2-in-a-row winner. And Legacy Trail would come back to win again and win rather impressively there on July the 8th. Was really flat last time, though. Legacy Trail. The track was negative rail, but Legacy Trail. And the negative rail thing did boost Rockstar Parking, by the way, who swung around them from the next to wide post through that vital second quarter. Legacy Trail did not adhere to the rail, though. Surprising with Ramji, because he rides with his head down. Sometimes I swear he has no idea where he's at out there. Legacy Trail got off the rail early enough and just ran flat. Just didn't perform. But if you throw that one out, then Legacy Trail is not hard to like here. The outside pair of runners are both contenders, and I will hold off until the post break. Out of habit, because I used to mute my mic while Pete brought the horses on and gave the names, which he never wanted to do. Most tracks don't do that, but the behind-the-scenes Mountaineer people like to hear their names called out on the public address. Hey, Kenny Neely, I did not pick up on that change. Is Silva's maiden son? Only in a horse racing sense. He's a precocious young man. Is Silva's maiden jockey son Did he sub in for Halder on the one horse Rockstar Parking? Is that what you're saying, Kenny? Let me know fast, man. Because that would be a non-starter with me and a definite reason for me to get involved and bet against Rockstar Parking, who did have a bias in her favor last time and who can be quirky at the break. And I think you might like the first 5.5 furlongs best nowadays. When you say kid, is that a change of jockeys? Over to Silva's kid? I'm going to watch the crawl. Slanderous number 8 has won 3 out of 4 and pops up here. Under half new ownership, which I'm not sure what to make of. Did that last win, the driving win, put her over the top? She used to stalk the pace, but kind of morphed into speed mode there for those consecutive wins in April and May. And with her two-turn strength, if she gets the lead here, and man, there is no early foot in this race, she would be very hard to take down with that two-turn strength. But she has been away about 5 weeks. And a change of ownership here, too, which would be mildly concerning to me. And she's 2-1. I think she's 2-1 because of nobody's betting off the Equibase numbers, but she's tied for tops and barely qualifies because she hits 40 right on the nose, and that's the top end to still get in and not run to be claimed here. Opposite the crowd on the outside. I think she's been scratched once since her last race. I was intrigued because Silva kept running her in the non-claimers, even though when she hit town, she had not pretty cheap Tampa past performances, and a $4,000 engagement or even $3,200 would seem in order, but that is not what they did with Opposite the Crowd. In fact, Silva's been kind of high on her, and his faith was affirmed last time when she almost catches Larimar. Now, Larimar speed fought there, but still, to miss by just a length to Larimar is kind of impressive there for Opposite the Crowd. Legacy Trail, the crowd is in forgive and forget mode, and has Legacy Trail all the way down there at 5-2. So I can contend Legacy Trail, but I think likelier winners would be Slanderous with what could be a pace advantage in terms of early acceleration, which is completely absent in this race. And Opposite the Crowd on the outside, too, off a big performance, which I don't think was an accident because Silva, again, has been so careful to protect the seemingly mediocre mare in non-claiming competition. And it does look like Silva Jr. on the one horse with the long legs, doesn't it? And they changed the weight to 124? Is that all this kid can do, 124? Maybe that's why they waved the bug last night on his pickup mount. Because when one bug subs in for another one, then the bug you sub in gets the weight. So this has got to be overweight. Now, if you name an apprentice belatedly, a late switch, when a journeyman was initially named on the horse, then you don't get the apprentice allowance. Those are the rules, guys. I see the horses I like, guys, numbers 8 and 9 here, but I'm not sure I see value in either entrance. So I'm going to sign off for now and watch the board intently. First off, Kenny, I think that kid is renounced as bug. Jockeys can do that. They can't do the weight and don't want to mislead trainers. They can renounce the bug, but they can't jump in and claim the bug at some later date. So I think he's just too heavy. And he's renounced as bug. I think probably the Silva kid. I can get really technical and talk about when somebody comes in overweight is a bug or is a non-bug, which amount of the overage is technically apprentice allowance waived, and which amount of it is overweight when a bug does step in that's too heavy. But that's really complicated stuff. And I used to disagree with the stewards all the time about it when I worked as assistant racing secretary. And when you work as an assistant racing secretary, and I worked long spells as a racing secretary too, conditions, weights, eligibility, that's your stock and trade. No surprise there at all. When you're second to Larimar by a half length, you're definitely qualified to beat up on this crew. And I thought the last race was for real because Silva had been so high on a horse with apparently desultory form coming up from Florida, who would have merited a cheap start but didn't get it. So Silva wanted to protect that runner. And his faith has been borne out now with that win tonight. Got a good trip as the lead was actually disputed from an unlikely source. His legacy trail. And Ramjeet sends everything, even the closers that he rides. Goes out to inconvenience the 8, but I don't think the 8 ran back to any of that Charlestown form to begin with. Unfortunately, the late money found that winner who was 7-5. A 5.5 for the 5th race. No winners in 12 months. These are $4,000 fillies, so this is a really restrictive race, the most restrictive written for veterans. This is the low of the low, guys. And I took issue. Let me put my banner up here and fly my colors. I took issue with a morning line here on a couple of horses, and I'm sure I'm going to be right. Romantic Jewel is not going to be 5-2. If Romantic Jewel is 5-2, the people who made Romantic Jewel 5-2 should go someplace and get a lobotomy. Should get lobotomized. And Small Town Smoke Show, I don't think he's going to be 5-1. I think Small Town Smoke Show, who I may bet on here, is going to be lower, considerably lower, unfortunately, than 5-1. Romantic Jewel runs second. I'll give her that. Up to her old tricks. It's been second now 2 in a row. But lost by 18 total lengths in those 2 races. And I would scare you if I told you how many years it's been since a Romantic Jewel tasted victory. It has been quite some time. One of the guys that used to own Romantic Jewel, I hope he's not listening, a long time ago, nice guy. Made his acquaintance when I was jogging around the premises at Mountaineer, and he was a fast walker, man. Long legs, fast walker, old guy, but was walking for real. And we'd always exchange friendly greetings. Didn't know he was an owner. So I needed a vehicle, so I popped up at the dealership in Newell, the Chrysler dealership in Newell, and had a beautiful Jeep Grand Cherokee, white, all decked out with the extras and stuff. A beautiful vehicle. I'm an SUV guy because I carry around a basketball, golf clubs, and I got to be at work, and I'm not going to get stopped by inclement weather. So I got to have the 4-wheel. So the sticker price on this thing's $54,000. So I go out and look and check the odometer, and this car's got like 2,000 fucking miles on it. And he tells me, I'll give it to you for 51,000 or 52,000. Are you kidding me? You're only going to knock $2K off a car that's got 2,000 miles on it? Are you joking me? Get out of here. No shot. No way, no how. And then I looked in the glove box, and it was clear that somebody had made a home in that car. They had all their stuff in there. Some chick had all her makeup in there and stuff like that. Like, please. I thought you were going to give me a deal, man. Small Town Smoke Show. I'm going to check the price setter because I know this horse is going to be lower than what I want. Way lower than the morning line. Small Town Smoke Show is 7-2. Holding up there a little bit. A Smoke Show exits the mother of all speed-laden races from July the 21st there. Wasn't just a higher condition than this. Considerably higher spot. But check out the fractions as compared to the final. They were ringing the dinner bell for the closers in there. And the horse that Small Town threw down with, a Pan Am owned Ramjeet horse, wins that 4.5 job last night like a Rozzy and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Check it out. Look it up because I don't make it up. So that's an affirmation of how swift the pace was when Small Town Smoke Show fought for a light lead there on torrid fractions. And that was the meat of the race, the early part there, and drops way down in conditions. I don't care about the 1,000 drop in claiming price, but to move down in conditions is the big difference here for Small Town Smoke Show. Small Town Smoke Show ran a 45 buyer the time before against Back on Track, and God knows how good Back on Track is for Silva, if you've been following her local career. So many of these 4.5 furlong Charlestown horses that are really frustrated speeds that couldn't get the lead at 4.5, when they go 5.5 at Mountaineer. Correctly spotted class-wise. Presto. They get speed relief, and the distance is not an issue. So I'm really looking at Small Town Smoke Show here. A Sonador, no. A Denali Ray number 4 is 4-1 and taking some support. Cal Gilbert's riding well. He's kind of a heavy jock, and that's compromised his career. But he's kind of got an knack for bringing horses from off the pace by surprise. I think he booted a winner in last week, did he not? Doesn't get a lot of live mounts. Denali Ray's been tuned up once. And Denali Ray shows back-to-back wins, both at 6 furlongs last year. At Parks, no less. And came from the back half of the field in one of those wins, which could make Denali Ray quite the deep closer in this race that's got a lot of speed. If there's a knock on Small Town Smoke Show, it's the opposing presence of a Girl By, and maybe not so much Vitami, who looks off form, even by cheap quitter standards. But you can count some other speeds in here. And if that compromises the two, man, you are hard-pressed to find somebody who can pass horses and muster a kick. And it could be the 4 horse here, Denali Ray. Sugar Britches, she retired herself a couple of years ago. Bold Nikki, she ain't so bold with a 2 for 34 record. And she's an Ohio bred to boot, is Bold Nikki. City Size, another Ohio bred with a less than stellar set of past performances. I just can't go there. I can't do it. Vitami, no. Doesn't even have her A speed anymore. Does not even have that. And when she did possess her A speed, she would have backed up anyways to some really bad fields. And she's probably outfooted here by the 2 horse. If not, then the 2 horse is not such a great idea on my part. Girl By on the outside, 6-5. So it's kind of dueling speeds here for favoritism between Small Town Smoke Show and Girl By. And I think the 2 is a little more camouflaged and is better than she looks at first glance, both in terms of speed and ability. Whereas Girl By, I think she's pretty obvious here. Girl By has got speed. She's also got a little bit of fight. She was outdueled there by Scootalong on July 20th. And she was buffered just too wide from the fence, which was bad. But she wasn't down dead along the inside, although Scootalong had the wider footing, which was good, which was better. I know I'm making this complicated, but racing is a complicated game, guys. A Girl By the time before last, I'm more impressed with that effort because she's not 6 furlongs. That's not what she's about. And that was a race with a lot of speed in it, too. There on July the 8th, and that was a higher spot than this. So if that Girl By were to show up, then look out. A Girl By, though, I think has been really tough through the early stages with Small Town Smoke Show. And I don't want to use a cliche, but at the end of the day, and we're into the night now, she's only 1 for 25 on conventional dirt, Girl By. So do you really want even money on that? Do you? I think the live horses are the 2 and the 4 here. I truly do. Does anybody, and I hate to ask this, because if somebody gives me the Bucko score and they were losing after they were buyers at the deadline, and they got that Weaver kid who's unhittable as a closer, as a bullpen stopper, which they so badly needed, and they fought their way back up to 500 and ran their record incredibly enough to like 7-1 or 8-1. Against Milwaukee on the year. What a letdown. if they go back into the red tonight. And not a good sign for my wager, which is going to be so close. I bet them to win 79 games or more this year. The funnest wager in sports, but at this point, I don't want fun. I want to get paid. I may well hazard a wager on this race, and I will be back afterwards, guys. Oh, yeah, MZ, Michael Zeisler, I did say the trainer of the two is persona non grata. His horses just are not getting it this year, and that should probably factor in to your thinking on this race, my man. Yeah, I like that horse a lot, bordered on romantic love, but I don't like 6 to 5, except I guess I should thank God for small favors that the tote was idiotic enough to make Girl Buy, who's not as quick as Small Town Smoke Show, was bringing a knife to a gunfight, speedball to speedball, and stands uh, a lordly 1 for 25, unconventional dirt. The board was stupid enough to make Girl Buy 3 to 5. Somebody said Pirate Pete that 3 to 1 could have been had on the exchanges on Small Town Smoke Show. A man alive. Good Lord. She's a good place to visit tonight. I don't think I'd want to live there, though, because she struggled mightily to be the field that she should have spanked. Good lesson there about productive races and key races, too. A lot of times you have to look at how an event played out to maybe guess what running styles are going to be particularly live coming back out of a race. It was obviously the speeds and that super fast early and slow late race that Small Town Smoke Show came out of. And also that thing last night owned by Pan Am came out of. So the two speed combatants have both come back to win from that race. The closers, maybe not so live, coming back after getting things in their favor there. And I'm talking about Small Town Smoke Show's last engagement, not this race tonight. So welcome in, guys. A lot of familiar faces. And it is good to see my friends. It's good to see somebody else's in the same boat as me, given those thieves, those lowly thieves at Comcast, $400 a month for the full golden package of channels I'll never watch. I got like 10 fucking channels where guys lay in the bushes or set up tree stands and hunt red squirrels. I got like 6 red squirrel hunting channels, on my 4,000 channel package that I just have to have. Oh, I just have to have it, baby. From Comcast/Xfinity. Yeah, a Platinum Pirate. I've had offers before to do some handicapping for the overseas syndicates when it comes to the Mountaineer and to lock some horses in at fixed odds. Yeah, I've had offers, believe me. So let us take a look at the next race. And this is kind of a cool Never 3 because you got some options here to choose from. Not lookalike forms, man, at all. So get your thinking caps on, you handicappers out there. 4,000 claiming Never 3. And we have got a horse from Thistledown, a horse from Charlestown, another horse from Charlestown, and the Mountain is represented too, owned by a couple of horses. Definitely not lookalike forms. You have to take your time and think about every single horse in here. I don't think there are any shortcuts in this race. Game Maker on the inside. I'll give you a shortcut. It ain't going to be Game Maker, at least in my opinion. Game Maker was getting caught from behind, which is okay if you speed duel intensely enough. I'm talking about June 21st. Except Game Maker lost action in deep stretch. Normally Game, a pretty brave type of speed horse, because I know this runner from Mahoney and used to stalk a little bit even, but went left lead in short and stride in an unbecoming manner that did not bespeak fatigue to me. Physical issues. Red flags went off for me on June the 21st. And then the horse gets claimed from a poor performance and doesn't do much first time out of the box there. So not for me. Spice Bag number 3, Shane Myers. I know Shane is 5 for 7 on the year at Mountaineer. And that's got to stack up for something, except, and you got to do a little bit deeper dive in cases like this and see if maybe a trainer's winners fit the same profile I think 4 of those 5 Shane Myers winners were in route races with horses coming back off the bench with fresh legs or making second start of the season. So he showed a lot of patience, giving his stock time off over the cold weather months and a lot of the spring, and then legged them up a lot for their comebacks and their second starts, which is what Shane Myers does. He runs fit horses. None of his strong suits are necessarily in play here with number 3, Spice Bag. I still think he's an asset, but maybe not as much of one as his 5-for-7 record at Mountaineer in the year might lead you to believe. Spice Bag wins for 12.5, next time in for 5 and runs a second, and tonight in for $4,000. So they're putting a big for sale sign on Spice Bag. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean the horse is some kind of a crip or anything like that, because if you look at the history here, and Spice Bag gets trounced for 62.5 in the last start late last summer at Presque. So I guarantee you, there was not a lot of money put into Spice Bag to be purchased there. So this might make some sense, and Spice Bag might be well meant on the drop here. Spice Bag makes this humongous interior move last time and gets tagged from behind there. And I guess the front wraps were added for the first time, although you got to be careful about trusting the track men with stuff like that. I would tend to trust the Cleveland crew more than I would the Mountaineer track man with picking up on the front wraps. The only thing the Mountaineer DRF crew used to do was to watch when the horses came out on the track and try to catch the paddock judge in a mistake, and a blinker mistake. And they got their jollies doing that, when it's supposed to be the steward's job to begin with. But you're worth when you work. In all fairness to those guys, you're worth when you work behind the scenes at a racetrack is how many mistakes you can catch. Not necessarily how much you can do that's productive, but how many potentially fatal mistakes, black hole events you can catch and correct. And that's kind of like if you're in the military, and I don't want to give a warlike analogy here, but if you're in the military and you're decorated with a lot of medals and stuff like that, when you're a racing official, you're decorated for your catches, not for what you do necessarily, but for how many of other people's mistakes you can catch that would have been potentially disastrous had they gotten by everybody. Do you guys dig this behind the scenes stuff? Because I got a lot of it. Fiber Strong is an 8-time winner, still number 3 eligible as a West Virginia bred. I haven't seen King Clouston buy anything from Runco, though, so I'm not sure about that track record. And Fiber Song is still officially a number 3, 8 wins or not, and is 8 years old. Cademan, the 5, as opposed to Caveman, is well supported there. In fact, is 5-2 on Cademan. I'm a little confused here. Cademan with some snappy form earlier this year at Tampa, and then lost his mojo, got a couple of months off, and his mojo did not return to him. The most recent race I don't like, that does not look like a swift pace by 6.5 furlong Charlestown standards. And this horse completely gives up the ghost. I don't like it. I don't dig that. But I will say that the previous try at Laurel, we could talk about that. It would probably put Cademan in front and probably win this race, by the way. Good Moments on the outside. Good Moments is 8-5 and probably going to be chalked. Good Moments ran fast to break maiden, high on the vaunted Beyer speed scale, and beat El Onita, who you regular denizens, degenerates of the Mountaineer racing sport realize has come back to do some good and climb the ladder and win some races. So that fig was for real, and it's uncommonly high for a $4,000 maiden race. Good Moments can take a stalking position. Was kind of sluggish first time off the sidelines there, but ran into a monster in Gavia, who had the SoCal form and the Delmar form, the good-looking Delmar form, and came back with fire in his eyes first time off the bench there. I just never offered to come back to Good Moments, who, with that race under his belt, should be sharper and maybe a little bit closer to the pace, and we'll get a clean trip out there. Good Moments. What I don't like, Good Moments, I think, has skipped a spot or two and has required 5 weeks since that return to competition. So I don't know if that's ominous or not. I like a little time after the return because that lessens the chances of a bounce, but I'm not sure I'm thrilled with the 5 weeks. Although I would be willing to say Good Moments might be the likeliest winner. And it's 6-5 right now. And I don't think Good Moments is 6-5 to beat Spice Bag. And I would keep in mind also that Cade Man could beat Good Moments if Cade Man runs back, not necessarily to the glory days at Tampa, but even to that race before last. And I can't give you much of a line on Ronaldo Richards. And that's what you look for with these invaders, how these outfits have rolled in the past at Mountaineer. And I used to keep these copious notes back before this information was accessible through any past performance service. I would keep these intricate trainer notes and even hired somebody to help me out at $20 a week and keep these records. So I could go back to these reams of notebooks and eventually in a computer program, and I could ascertain what an outfit had done a couple of years back at Mountaineer. Nobody else had that info. But now anybody can find it, anybody can access it. And I do it on Formulator. And this outfit's 1 for 5 at Mountaineer. And that was with a chalk. So I just can't tell you much about the trainer factor when it comes to number 5, Cade Man. This is feeling a lot like a pass for me. Hey, Lyrics, aka Norman Williams. I'm going to root for you, my brother. Since I'm not going to bet the race, I will pull for your pick 4 because you're certainly in there with a righteous shot with Spice Bag, for sure. My question to you, Mr. Jordan Parks, is if I go to the Xfinity store, can I thus circumvent those listless, ordered on penalty of death voices on the other end of the phone? They're on penalty of death and not send a tech to my house. If I go right to the Xfinity store, do I have a better shot for them to dial up a tech and schedule me a visit in my domicile? Would that work? Could I make that end run? Think it over, please, guys. Oh, that was always the most probable winner in the race, but I wasn't in any big hurry to take 6 to 5 on Good Moments to beat what was an interesting array by Never Three Life standards, kind of like Leo DiCaprio said in that modern classic. TNT calls these kind of movies classics. The Quick and the Dead, when Sharon Stone finds out that evil Gene Hackman, the gunfighting champion, who stages the tournament to begin with just so he can win it and shoot guys up. And she finds out that that is DiCaprio's father. And DiCaprio says, I'm about the only guy that can take him. And I'm not in any big hurry to try that. Well, I wasn't in any big hurry to take 6 to 5 on Good Moments, even though that was the most probable winner. As far as Spice Bag goes, I was rooting for you, my man Lyrics, for sure. I did mention beforehand that I did not think Spice Bags really played into any of Shane Meyer's strong suits. Really not in his wheelhouse necessarily. And maybe the drop was just a little bit questionable after the front wraps came on for the first time last. I don't know. That's drawn a really fine line. Good Moments was much the best there, for sure. Clearly best, anyways. You guys like that movie, The Quick and the Dead? Russell Crowe, young Russell Crowe, like 60 pounds lighter than he is now. It's a good movie. It's easy to watch. A simple plot. There were really like 2 gunfights, 2 actual historically recorded gunfights in the history of the Old West. So the idea that these guys went around saying, I got to know if I'm the fastest in town. Meet me in the middle of the street. No. Like the Cartwrights would wear their 6 shooters at the dinner table to savor Hop Singh's finest. They're 6 guns. They're wearing to the effing dinner table. I love Western movies, but the whole deal's a myth. Movie-wise, it is a myth. It's a creation, and a very profitable creation. Or the Hollywood hype machine, mythology machine. So nobody got any other than 5.5 furlongs. I liked Matt Matters in here. And Matt Matters has been scratched, which certainly softens up the assignment for number 3, Run of the House. Run of the House was second last time at a fast-looking race out of the same race header at Charlestown, where the purse is bigger and the competition stiffer. Kevin Joy's got a good record when he ships up here. The jock comes along, tags along to ride the horse. And there are guys in the chat right now, I'd be willing to bet you, that play that as an angle when the jock comes along for like 1 mile, something like that. I think my man from Laguna Beach, Paul from Laguna Beach, that's how he rolls and makes money too. He just lays in the weeds and waits until the shipping jock has just 1 mount. My dad used to do that, like freaking 40 years ago, man, 50 years ago. Run of the House wins at Louisiana Downs and then, strangely enough, ships to Charlestown and now ships up here. Does Run of the House. Run of the House showed a 2-turn speed last time and 7 furlong speed the start before, but got the lead or vied for the lead 3-4 straight times, sprinting at Aqueduct. So he's the goods early, and those are fast looking. I didn't pull up charts on other races at the same distance on the card. Those are fast looking splits for Charlestown, 6.5 last time from Run of the House. It's going to be a short price here. No question about it. Horses are always good. Went back to Fort Erie and won an allowance in its next start. So that was a good field that found Connect the Dots, a fast closing third. The way this works in Ohio usually, and I'm going to get down in the weeds and get a little technical here, guys. The way this works in the good state of Ohio, just for a frame of reference here, when a horse wins a 4-life allowance or a 3 other than a restricted Ohio bred race, then they're qualified to step outside the ranks and go after a non-winners A other than. Now, with West Virginia breds, it's a little bit dicier, I think, in some instances, because not all West Virginia breds, just because they graduate the 4-life level, can come back and win and open. There's your word, Steve Majewski, A other than. But it normally qualifies a horse once they run through the state conditions to tackle that first entry-level allowance condition in open competition. So Connect the Dots qualifies on that basis. If run of the house, though, off that 6.5 furlong race last time and a 7 furlong win pulling away the time before controls the lead here, then there's no setup for Connect the Dots. And why has Connect the Dots been away since May? I think he has been scratched since that last race, too. So who knows where they're at right now with Connect the Dots. There's number 8, Underlay. Underlay had a world of speed, at least on the back form. Has not really displayed that speed at Mountaineer. And they tried manfully to make him into a closer last time because there was so much wall-to-wall quickness in there. But he really wasn't having it. Just went kind of evenly there, Underlay. So I think his best shot is to try and get the lead. I'm not saying he can't inconvenience run of the house, but not off the form we've seen from him so far at Mountaineer. I got to love this name, Johnny French Fry. Johnny French Fry. I love French fries, but never ketchup on top, ketchup on the side. This is interesting. Johnny French Fry, and Johnny's 5-2 up there. They're looking at him as a last out winner, and they're going to throw out that synthetic experiment, which I would too. And looking at that towering Beyer Speed Fig in victory there on April the 17th. A couple of twists, though, in the plot line here, guys. Johnny was lost for $10,000 at Tampa in January and then taken back by the same crew at 13-1, almost 14-1. And I guess they had a reason to take their horse back because they win with Johnny, first start back in the fold at almost 16-1, and then sell him down the road. So the burning desire to have Johnny back in the barn expired pretty quickly, huh? He's been sold, which greatly complicates things here, guys, because usually private buys are horses purchased for and targeted towards lower spots in the condition book. Number 2, Erlan is 5-1. This is a hard horse to read. Erlan, from out of nowhere, I swear, had been sluggish in those 2-turn synthetic races and then gets over on dirt and discovers his inner speedball and puts up a couple of humongous numbers there. Did Erlan. Now, when he gets claimed on what had to be a shaky drop there, he wins, but lost a few points off his Beyer Speed Fig fastball. Struggled to win. It was a mistimed claim. But so many times, a claim that's not timed correctly can still work out with good horsemanship and patience. And both have been employed with Erlan, who has been rested since February and who runs from a barn that tends to have them dead fit first time back kids. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Interesting. Is number 2 Erlan here. Although I've got to make run of the house by far the most probable winner. I do think run of the house's odds may take a dipperooski here when that 11th hour money comes in. I'm going to fess up and tell you guys, I did not look at the nightcap. I don't know if I'll stick around and we'll slog through it a little bit. If my wife calls me and tells me, and she's got a roast in the oven with potatoes from our own garden adorning this lovely roast, if she calls me and tells me The dinner is being served. You guys are on your own for the nightcap. Back in a minute. All right, guys, I guess I'll stick around a little bit and we'll talk the last race over. I did not necessarily see that winner coming. Took some play there. Did Underlay. Definitely the sharpest performance we've seen from Underlay so far this season. Still doesn't have that Tampa speed, though. Underlay is Erlon. I was kind of kicking myself around the turn because I figured Erlon was live there off the bench for an outfit that runs him fit. And runs him fit first time back, man. And Erlon did back up a little bit there. Run of the house, sometimes the psychology is not good. When they start shipping a horse around that's doing well, going to Charlestown from Louisiana Downs, and then a bigger person at Charlestown on the other then they're going to sacrifice all that money to come here and run in the same condition instead of running back down there. I'm not saying it figured to be ominous beforehand, but after the fact. I'm not redboarding in my commentary, but after the fact, sometimes the reasons are apparent why a horse tanks, and maybe the psychology was not good for a horse that just missed by a neck last time at Charlestown. And the same condition, guys. So last race, a never two, 4,000 claiming going a mile. Looks like an unholy mess, man, at first glance. I'm looking at these past performances. We got Fairmont for a couple of these. We got Charlestown for a couple of these. And we got good old Mountaineer. And here's the kid, Silva's son, who's on a really live one, Silent Breeze, who's got a poor post position. And the Silent Breeze was well positioned last time on a soft pitch pace. So at every opportunity there, I thought. I'll tell you something, though. Well, the Two-Horse Classic Alfie, who was in the same race, what's it all about, Alfie? Because it was a curious ride on Classic Alfie. It's almost like Negron was instructed to sit back, and maybe the plan was to set the pace with Silent Breeze, because Negron, after shaking the reins at Classic Alfie a couple of times right out of the gate, just kind of wrapped up, and it was a rather listless performance. And Classic Alfie, with that sprint speed displayed in the previous trio of starts, you would think could cut that first corner under an aggressive ride and maybe be on top. And purchased privately from Diodoro, which is sometimes a license to burn your money. But I'm looking back, tough beat at 1 16 at Del Mar on the bottom of the hard copy form. I think there are possibilities here. Not so much with Scuba. Move in Silence. Prime Shopping came flying last time going 6, but it was a closer's race and a closer's track too, a wide closer's track, guys. So keep that in mind. Some of the Charlestown races aren't bad for Prime Shopping, and this barn tends to work things out with whatever they get their hands on. I don't like the 7. The 8 horse, the Comac Kid. The Comac Kid looks really interesting here. The Comac Kid is in some maiden specials, drops down to 12.5, gets favored, and gets it done in a workmanlike manner. Next time, tries the turf at Penn, and it does not disgrace himself at 48-1. I don't know what happened last time for the Comac Kid. It was definitely a blot on his past performances, but if you kind of excuse that, when the rest of his body of work probably makes him a winner here, the Comac Kid. A great beast. Why was this horse claimed at 25-1 at Tampa on April 11th? Did they not look at the tote board when they filled the slip out? It used to be 15 minutes to post. You had to deposit your claim slip in Mountaineer. And then they moved it to 10 so the horseman could theoretically get a look at the horses in the paddock. But sometimes the outfits that are running in the race, if they fear losing their horse, they get a little clever and show up late to the paddock. A little bit of gamesmanship there. I've seen it done a lot of times. So it's really tough to get a look at the horse and still get your claim deposited, believe me. And most times, it's not a visual thing. They've already scoped the horse out and clocked the horse coming back to be unsaddled after a previous race when they determine to claim a runner. It's not so much paddock observation, but the gamesmanship runs rampant when it comes to the claim game. You get these guys, cocky-ass trainers. Wilson Langley used to do this. That'll stand on the rock wall at Mountaineer next to the tunnel where they come back after the race. And he wanted to be an intimidator and let rival trainers know he was scoping their stock. And occasionally some of those wise guys will blurt out, don't run him back. Just to get inside the heads, to get free rental space inside the heads of rival conditioners. And the guys that run horses that they think might be haltered at the claim box. They've got some gamesmanship too. There's an urban legend about a guy that used to write on the front wraps, low bowed tendon, stay away, boys, or jump on in, the water's fine. He would write this shit on the horse's front wraps as kind of a snide little message to the claim box brigade. I was claims clerk for a long time and could tell you some stories about claims. The stewards wanted me to, when they got too lazy to come downstairs, at least back in the day, they were too lazy to come downstairs and process the claims. And when a steward processes a claim, they check the spelling, and you got to be specific, man. You got to be very accurate. You got to cross the T's and dot the I's and stuff like that. And also, the stewards have to call the bookkeeper and make sure the money's on deposit, plus the taxes. So they have to process the claim. And when they got lazy, former iteration of stewards, way back when I was a fledgling official, and the claim slips were in these big honking red clownish envelopes. And they used to tell me, these lazy stewards, try and hide it, Mark, when you bring it upstairs, so nobody can see that there's a claim in the race. So I'm like, what the fuck? I can't hide this big honking red clown envelope. If you don't want anybody to know if there's been a claim, get your own asses down here to the racing office and process it. So I tried to tuck it inside my shirt. But the bottom line is, and this was part of my argument when I campaigned on my soapbox, for years to have claims announced before the race. And one of my big regrets about my career as a racing official / TV host was that I didn't just do it and find out who got claimed and put it out before the race on the air, because that kind of transparency would do so much to boost the game and to kind of bring handicappers and players into the know on the inside. And the visuals on that, the transparency, would just be great. And one of my arguments was, why hide who's been claimed? Because everybody knows it. They know at 12 o'clock that afternoon who's going to get claimed and by whom. But I never got it done through the Racing Commission to have claims announced before the race. And I wish I would have done it. I came really close a couple of times because as an official, I was privy to that information. All I had to do was call the racing office and ask who got claimed. And I could have put it out on the air right away. Except I really don't want to out whoever would have told me from my crew down in the racing office. Well, guys, if it's going to be old listless Reverend Jack who likes the first six, maybe 6.5 furlongs best to win this, and usually, I don't care if he's a 4-time career winner, he just struggled to win it ever two, and saw his number come down there, Reverend Jack. So he was first at the wire. I'll give him that, and still eligible. But man, the planets need to be perfectly aligned. It needs to catch a soft field. And at this stage of his career, nobody else better fired too big. So when I see 2-1 on him, he ain't sexy. I'm almost compelled. What did Anthony Hopkins say in the sequel to Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, which was a weird ass movie, when he told the cop who had outed him, and he knew it, and he moved on the cop before the cop could arrest him. Hannibal Lecter, when he said to the cop, "I'm seriously considering eating your wife with a nice Chianti and some fava beans." Well, I am seriously considering working out some kind of a wager here that incorporates the 2 and/or 8. And I do consider that pair a pretty good shot between the two of them to garner top money here. Tell you what, if somebody wants to take the 10 and 11 and give me the 2 and the 8, I will bet you straight up until the cows come home. Not a good race to say that about, though, because I kind of blew it off. I didn't look at it this afternoon. But there were times when I did the Mountain Air Show when I didn't look at the whole card because I was out golfing until an hour to post. And those were some of my best shows. I could totally fake it. And when I didn't want to fake it, I could simply say, hey, we're going to do something different tonight, guys. We're going to pretend we're in simulcast together. We just cracked the form open, and we're going to break this stuff down together, horse by horse. What's the old saying? The violinist, the world-class violinist. Not that I'm world-class at anything, guys. I don't mean it that way. What did he say? When I don't practice for one day, I know. When I don't practice for 2 days, the orchestra knows. For 3 days, the whole world knows. I don't think anybody ever knew how much I had or had not prepped for the show. Hey, enjoyed it very much, guys. Hope to see you tomorrow, 15 minutes to post. Mark Patterson out.